Hey everybody, today I'm releasing 0.9.3 pre-release 4, and the fourth pre-release for 0.9.3 has a pretty big change for the way you access the store collection. So previously the store collection we treated basically exactly the same as all the other collections, but there's sort of this problem where, you know, if I need to look up data in the store collection, it's got to go hit the server and actually come back before I have access to that data. So the solution we were doing before is basically to return an empty array or something, and then once the data was ready, we would reactively load it in, and you could reactively watch for those changes, and there were some helpers for that. But that was kind of confusing, I think, especially, you sort of expect to see some sort of object either telling you that it's not ready yet, and a promise is a good example. So we basically switched where all the sort of query methods and data access methods on store collection now give you back promises. And we've made some sort of helpers to make this really easy, so you don't actually have to think in terms of promises. You can sort of just use them. So let me show you what that looks like. So now, first off, one thing that this is unrelated that you can do now is if you have a post model, a post class model, you can now say store.post without the underscore. So that's nice. So now if we do, store.post.first, what we actually get back is a promise. And, this is here because post, the first post may not be loaded right away. And so in this case, though, on the clients or in the console, since we're on the same machine, it does load right away, and we can kind of see it, in the inspect here. So I could take this promise and I could say give me this post. And this is how you'd use promises: is you'd call then on it, you'd pass it a block, and it's going to pass in the resolve value of the promise when it resolves. So I could say post.inspect, and here you can see it inspected our model, and then returned another promise from the end here. And you'll notice too, we've gone ahead and made kind of a cleaner way to inspect. We've kind of cleaned up inspect for models. You can also do, you could say store.post.all, and that's going to return a promise that has our array model. And then things like, if I was to say where title is title.all, again, it's going to return a promise with what's called a cursor. And these also, like cursor and array model, are basically the same thing. So one thing you could do is, once you have these models, you can always call then on them, pass them a block, and get the object out. Sort of the last thing that you need to know is that even if I do something like, here's my posts, and I say give me the 0th post, it's still going to return another promise. And the reason for that is that we're basically, we still don't know exactly when things are going to load, so again, it just returns a promise for you. More so to keep the APIs consistent. And so, the problem with this is it's sort of a lot of work, right? If I want to get the first post, and then I want to return the title of it, right? I have to say then post, and then post.title, and that gives me back the title. So to make this easier, we've extended the promise class to actually you can now call methods on the promise class directly. So here we're getting back promise. We can just call title on it, and this is exactly the same as calling then something something. So it'll return a new promise that basically calls the title method once the resolve promise is ready. So that's kind of nice. That makes life pretty easy. To make it even easier, we've gone ahead and added, so all of our bindings now, you'd normally put this in the controller, but I'm just showing as an example. So if we do something like this, store.post.first.title, you can see over here, if I reload the page, it's gonna bring that in. So this wasn't available, the second the page loaded, but it basically went to the server, fetched it, and then resolved the promise all the way through, and then the binding knows to update as soon as the promise resolves. And so this works with all of our bindings now. You can do it in each blocks, or you can pass each a promise, kind of anything you'd expect to be able to pass a promise, you can. In situations where you're not sure whether you're dealing with store or one of the other models that don't use promises, you can actually now call then on any object and get back a promise. And so where this is most useful is if you're doing something where you have some callback in your model and you're actually not sure whether you have a promise or not. You can now just call then on anything, and it'll behave like a promise. It'll convert it to a promise if it's not one already, and if it is, it'll resolve. So one other thing to note that changed now is since we're returning promises on everything relating to store, if you do current user now, you'll get back a promise as well. And that returns nil if there is no current user and returns the current user if there is one. If you do current user question mark, that'll also give you back a promise that resolves a Boolean if there is or isn't a current user. So those are the changes in pre-release 4. Please give it a try, and then we'll release the 0.9.3 final version here pretty soon. Thanks.